morning, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are canning venison, maybe a little bit of elk, I'm not sure. But after doing the vegetable soup, I really love these like one meal in a jar. It's already seasoned, and you can just pour it out into a pot and eat it. I'm getting pretty familiar with my pressure canner. Again, this is my first year pressure canning. So we'll see how it goes. This is my go-to book right now. I'm trying to decide, and maybe I don't have to decide on one, I could do both. But we can do venison, just straight venison in a quart jar. Which it looks like we'll have to do some roasting, which isn't, the worst thing. Or we can do like this beef stew with vegetables. Obviously replacing the beef with venison. I have all the ingredients for that, and I've been trying to use up a lot of carrots that I've harvested out of the garden over the past couple weeks. So I definitely want to do that. We will still be browning the beef for this anyway. So I think that's what we're going for. We're gonna do some meals in a jar, stew with vegetables, and then just some straight venison that I can pull off the shelf and use in a recipe. Okay, so we are getting all of our ingredients together. I've also pulled out all of the tomatoes from this year because I'm going to process those as well. I'm just gonna make a bunch of crushed tomatoes. And I'm gonna pressure can them so that I don't have to add lime or lemon juice. I don't wanna have to add any acidity to my tomatoes. This frozen corn we grew this year, the frosting for the veggie soup. We've got our carrots that we grew for the soup, onions, potatoes. All right, I'm gonna get started first with doing just the meat in the jars. I'm gonna get in here, see what we got. And I'm gonna wanna slice it into pretty thin strips, I believe. Not super thin, but And I'm just gonna be putting them on this parchment here. So that's what we are going to bake them on. We're just going to be browning the outside of the strips. The dogs know that they're gonna get some pretty tasty snacks. I got my first pan of strips, venison strips. I'm gonna go ahead and get them in the oven at 400 and start browning them. I'm not cooking them, just browning the outside. Okay, so I would call this browned. but not cooked. And I'm gonna put this next pan in. I think we're gonna do maybe 4 pans worth. And the rest I will dedicate to the venison stew with potatoes and carrots. While that meat cools, I am going to be washing my jars. We are going with quart-sized jars because that's how much we would probably eat in a meal. I'm just thinking if I were to pull one of these down, maybe make like a teriyaki stir fry, we would eat a whole jar, especially on a weeknight if Sean was working. So, but you know, do what fits your needs. If you're just one person, then maybe you just want to do pints. It's also not super necessary to like go through the trouble of sanitizing anything because we are pressure canning and we are, you know, these jars are going to be subject to extremely high temperatures. So, okay, I've got 1 jar packed with my venison. I put a teaspoon of salt, kosher salt. I've also got some white vinegar here that I'm gonna grab a paper towel and wipe that rim really good. So the recipe says for about every 1 to 2 tablespoons, add a cup of water. So I'm gonna add a cup of water to this and get this boiling on the stove. We're gonna wanna leave an inch of headspace. Hoping this is enough broth for 1 jar. Oh yeah, we should be good. 1 inch of headspace. Beautiful. And I'm just gonna wipe the rim 1 more time with vinegar. Okay, and there you have it, 1 jar down. We are going to be doing 7 jars because that's what fits in my little canner. All right, I have my pressure canner on my stove and it is heating up. I put hot water in there and I've got my 7 quart jars of venison in a venison broth with a teaspoon of salt per quart jar. If you were doing pints, you would do half a teaspoon of salt. And this stuff over here, I think was meant to be dog food, but we never processed it. The dogs have had plenty today, so I think I'm just gonna throw this to the chickens, give them a nice protein boost because they all happen to be molting anyway, so they need the extra protein. All right, look at that, just so absolutely gorgeous. We are gonna get the lid on and we are gonna get this up to pressure. And we are running this venison at 90 minutes. Okay, that is coming up to pressure and I'm gonna take care of this mess behind me and get us prepped for the venison vegetable stew. Okay, it's kind of loud in here, but I've got my onions and my potatoes chopped. I still need to do carrots and celery, yep. And then I browned up my venison in the oven, and so that is going to end up going in this pot once I get the rest of the veggies. All right, I pulled out the venison. It looks amazing. I didn't have any siphoning. It's just gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. Love it. I love when you put in the work and you are rewarded. So these will sit here for the next 24 hours and cool and seal and do their thing. We are moving on to getting the venison stew in the canner now. I've got my 7 clean quart jars here and I've got my soup over here. I am starting to heat it up and we are going to ladle it into our jars. Well, good morning, everyone. I got all of the canning done yesterday or last night. And so it has been just kind of hanging out on the table. We have a busy morning. I'm running to take Cooper to the vet. He has some millet seeds in his eyes from the last time they went bird hunting. And then I gotta come home and make some beef food. And I think today I want to try to make their fondant that I'll be making for them for the winter. Bees can't have liquid during the winter because they don't, you know, most of the time they're not able to leave the hive to relieve themselves. They don't go to the bathroom in the hive, so I want to try to perfect a fondant recipe that I can make that is cost effective, that, you know, obviously self-reliance. I don't want to have to rely on ordering something from somewhere. So I'd like to make it myself. So I think we're going to mess around with that today when we get back from the vet. But I want to show you all the canning success that we had. Okay, we've got 31 jars of food here. This vegetable soup is so delicious. I did have a little bit of siphoning. I think I've got that kink worked out, so we're good now, but this should be fine. And to be honest, it's probably not gonna be on the shelf for very long because it's really good. And then some of the beans that were left over from the vegetable soup that I made, I decided to can up as well. I had some more tomatoes to process, so we did more crushed tomatoes there, more crushed tomatoes last night. And then we have the venison stew, which turned out all right. I followed the ball canning recipe, and Sean thinks that it's a bit undersalted, but better undersalted than oversalted. So he can salt it when he opens the jars. He's going to deer camp next week, so he's going to take some of those to eat for dinners. Those will be nice camping dinners. And then we have just the venison in a jar, which he may take a couple of those. I eat venison, and I like it to be heavily marinated, and I marinate it for days in soy sauce and Worcestershire and all kinds of different things. And so that's how I enjoy it. One of our black-tailed deer we got a couple years ago had a bit strong of a taste. So I think this may have been the tail end of that blacktail. So yes, I will eat it. But it does have a pretty strong taste. So 31 jars of food, 2 days worth of work. It's not too bad. I should mention quarts, 31 quarts. Definitely gonna be making more veggie soup because I have a lot of carrots that I still need to process from the garden, and we've got corn. We have potatoes. They're small from the garden, but we have them. So, all right. Thanks for coming along on my little canning journey. I really appreciate you all being here, and I will see you next time.